All right, without further ado, because there's been plenty, Matt Rassmussen is the author of Black Aperture, which won the 2013 Walt Whitman Award. It was also a finalist for the 2014 National Book Award and was awarded the 2014 Minnesota Book Award for Poetry. His poems have been published or are forthcoming in The Literary Review, Gulf Coast, Waterstone Review, Paper Darts, Poets.org, and elsewhere. He is a founder and editor of the independent poetry press Birds LLC and lives in Robbinsdale, Minnesota. Please welcome Matt.
Thanks. Hello. I also don't have water, so hopefully this goes well. My mouth feels a little dry. I'll do some exercises or something. Is that what's recording me, this thing? I was wondering what that was.
Yeah,
Like a teleprompter?
high-tech iPad.
Well, thank you all for coming out. Thank you to the St. Paul Almanac, Common Good Books, to David for inviting me. I'm just going to read a few poems, 4 poems from my book, and a few newer ones. Can you all hear me okay? Is that right? It feels like I can't hear myself. All right. My book is an elegy for my brother. Most of the poems are, or deal with suicide in some way. So, first one's titled After Suicide. A hole is nothing but what remains around it. My brother stood in the refrigerator light, drinking milk that poured out of his head, through thick black curls down his back, into a puddle growing larger around him. My body stood between the living room and kitchen, 1 foot on worn carpet, 1 on cold linoleum. He couldn't hear his name clouding from my mouth, settling in the fluorescent air. I wanted to put my finger into the hole, feel the smooth channel he escaped through, stop the milk so he could swallow it. But my body held as if driven into place. The milk on the floor reflected the light, then became it, floated upward and outward, filling every shadow, blowing the dark open. My next poem, sort of in the vein of creation myths, but it's more sort of a destruction myth, I guess. And it's one of those poems where the title runs into the first line. So the title is, And God Said, Turn the sky into water. All the animals gathered and decided if the sky were water, they would be drowned. So they cried until the oceans formed. You have not turned the sky into water, said God, but we have made a sky of water in which fish swim as birds fly. It is only a matter of perspective, said one of the animals. God, who was trapped in the sky, needed a way out. When he looked down on the ocean, he could only see his wide blue reflection. This irritated him. The mountains, which once caressed, now ground against him. And God said, Tear down the mountains and build me some fields. The animals gathered, and having cried enough, would never again. God knew he had asked too much. He threw himself into the sun and burnt into white ash. It fell from the sky and covered the mountains. The animal who named everything called it snow. It's my snow poem for the snow outside. It's not really an ode to snow, but okay. It's my mouth wettening. Maybe that's not a word. Exercise. Okay. Another poem about my brother. This features an outdated piece of technology called the answering machine. Title of the poem's Outgoing. Our answering machine still played your message. And on the day you died, Dad asked me to replace it. I was chosen to save us the shame of dead you answering calls. Hello, I've just shot myself. To leave a message for me, call hell. The clear cassette lay inside the white machine, like a tiny patient being monitored, or a miniature glass briefcase protecting the scroll of lost voices. Everything barely mattered, and then no longer did. I pressed record and laid my voice over yours, muting it forever, and even now. I'm sorry we are not here, I began. It's like, is there a drip from somewhere? There is a water fountain? Yeah, I don't want to do that, but that's awkward. Do you have water? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Water delivery. Let's try one more poem. I'll count the number of F's in this poem. It's got a lot. The title's Reverse Suicide. The guy Dad sold your car to comes back to get his money, leaves the car. With filthy rags, we rub it down until it doesn't shine, and wipe your blood into the seams of the seat. Each snowflake stirs before lifting into the sky, as I learn you won't be dead. The unsuffering ends when the mess of your head pulls together around a bullet in your mouth. You spit it into Dad's gun before arriving in the driveway, while the evening brightens, and we pour bag after bag of leaves on the lawn, waiting for them to leap onto the bare branches. These poems are a little lighter. You have to push the button. There you go. That was fun. That's gonna look weird. Button.
We'll CGI that in.
Yeah, I'll take the water, I guess. Is this okay, everybody?
Yeah.
Is everybody down there? Take a vote.
I rinsed it.
Oh, you rinsed it? Okay. This is my endorsement of St. Paul water. It's good. It's better than Ice Mountain. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's so necessary. All right, so I have just 3 poems left. They're, like I said, a little bit lighter fare. The last poem is about my brother, but this one, I wrote this book of elegies for my brother, and I tried to write other poems, and I couldn't write other poems unless I was writing in this sort of elegiac fashion. So my television was dying, and I wrote an elegy for my television. That's where the story was going, and I called it Technology. Night fell like day unplugged, as my television suffused me in its death glow. We both hummed monotonous tones to keep us from thinking about how one of us was dying. I was the lucky one, I kept telling myself. Then it flickered a few times like a giant blinking eyelid. You must not cry as your television dies. No one will tell you this, but it is as real as truth-fed truth serum. You should not cradle it in your arms, your expression framed in its rectangular face. Remember, you are artificial, but alive, and must begin the process of replacement, always and again. Try not to notice your TV's bulb pumping less and less light. Do not recall the time you drowned your iPhone, or how it trembled on your thigh, choking in your shorts pocket. Do not relate how your laptop just one day OD'd on bad data. There was no chance to log out or even say goodbye. That last document still unfinished, an open ghost floating like a sheet of pixels in some as of yet unrediscovered technoverse. Please do not mourn the death of your television. Do not weep when its face goes dark. Do not feel its light leaving your body. Okay. The 2 subjects in poetry are love and death, so covered death, moving to love. Um, I've written one love poem since high school, and it's a love poem, not for my wife, but for Optimus Prime, who is the leader of the Transformers and is like an alien robot. And what you need to know, if you don't know the character, is it's from a cartoon when I was a child that's now made into this like blockbuster movie thing, which I haven't even seen. So it's the cartoon version is what I envision. And he's a robot, he's a transformer, so he can transform from a semi-truck into this sort of giant robot. All right, love poem for Optimus Prime. There is no love like the love of a man for a robot. We could travel wherever we want, and I could live inside you. My wife would be okay with it because you are asexual and have a way of convincing people with your iron voice like a futuristic public service announcement and the force to back it up. But I won't be able to fathom your gentleness, your giant hand never crushing me even a little, and somehow you never accidentally kick me across the afternoon. You will leave your cause, and I mine. I'll have one by then. And we'll never talk about who we were. You'll try, but I'll just put my finger to your cold chrome communigrate and say, shh, and we can watch the sunset in silence, if the sun is setting at that time. If it isn't, then it isn't. We won't be able to keep traveling forever. My wife, after all, will be waiting for me, I hope. And when I begin to treat your truck self differently than your robot self, I hope you'll understand. It's just, I would rather be a passenger in your rolling cab than the alien and non-metal heart in your see-through shielded chest. His chest is like the windshield of the truck, so I always thought as a kid, if you were sitting in there and he changed into a robot, you'd be like sitting right in it, where his heart should be. But he has no heart. I don't know what the hell I'm saying right now. Okay. This is my last poem. It is also about my brother. It's sort of an elegy, but it's more kind of just about the stupid things we would do as kids. And it's called The War on the War. As kids, we had code words for all the imaginary drugs we would do. The problem was the chemicals erased our brains. So each day, we would build a new, more secret language. Our addictions perpetuated unimagined words that floated into our mouths, and we closed our faces around them all high on the freshness of their edges. Then the news of the war lit up the living room. By tying a necktie around your head, you declared yourself a freedom fighter in the war on drugs. You wanted me to believe in nothing for once. I remember how stoned I imagined I was. Looking into a mirror facing another mirror, the hallway of reflections lined with multiplied me. I knew you were dead before I knew you were dead.